Now, to continue the discussion on Malaysia's four-phase recovery plan, I'm joined by Dr. A.T.Kumararajah. Datuk, thanks for joining us. My first question is, we know that basically crisis management is about planning and then the execution of those plans to an agreed objective. So in terms of this, does the plan announced by the Prime Minister match what is normally expected? Your thoughts, Datuk?
Hi, Elaine. I think quite intrigued by the fact that you use the word crisis management, because in a crisis management, I think what we're looking at is a very much centralized command, control and coordination center. And I think the Prime Minister's announcement of the National Recovery Plan kind of sits into that continuum of what they intend to do. But I think there are a lot of details which probably he didn't mention it during his announcements, because it was a very short announcement. But I believe, and we give the benefit of doubt to the government to make sure that they have enough granular data to make sure this plan moves forward with all the expected interim milestones being met, and also the idea of moving from phase 1, 2, 3, 4 being subsequently met. So I think government has done fairly well in terms of announcing this plan, while he has peppered it with what for a very long time all of us were expecting some sort of a composite index, because not only looking at the number of daily COVID cases, but also looking at other parameters like economic initiatives, social initiatives, and social indicators also being part and parcel of the plan. So far, they've included two others. One is the healthcare capacity, and the other is the vaccination rates. While that is welcome, we hope that the government will be able to have a more dynamic composite index in terms of imputing other things like economic recovery, outputs, productivity, even GDP growth to some extent, consumer confidence, and things like that to be part and parcel of this plan moving forward. So it is a very good plan as industry and as businessmen. We welcome it. Though on a personal note, there are many skeptics who have also said that this plan may be too little too late, or the cost of having this plan may be a lot more damaging than it is. The cost-benefit analysis doesn't seem to favor the government. There is a report that I recently read which said that, the whole cost of the pandemic is $170 billion, but the whole cost of treating these people who have we have close to 500,000 mark or 600,000, and that's only about $100 billion. So we're better off trading it off and having actually a very open economy. While that may be a very academic argument, but I think the government must look at it purely from a very holistic and rakyat viewpoint. I think government has done what's best at this point in time, and we are all for it.
Now, on the surface, the four-phase plan seems simple in approach. Now, within the business sphere, perhaps you can share with us on that. Does the recovery plan resonate with the business people from your circle and the various business chambers in the country?
Again, there is a very polarized view on this, Elaine. But I think primarily what everybody wants to know is, hopefully all the interim milestones, because we have a four-phase plan, and we are supposed to be all back to normal, at least the pre-pandemic level, somewhere in October, November, or towards the middle of the fourth quarter. These interim ideas that the vaccination rates must be there, supply of vaccinations must be there. Now, PICAS, as I was watching your news, now PICAS is definitely a good initiative to move this plan forward, and then to make sure the healthcare capacity will be able to cope with it. And also we have this circuit breakers, make sure that our number of cases every day doesn't go up. So all this put together, I think the business community, the fact that, you have probably read a lot of this data coming out in terms of nearly 90% or more than 2/3 of the businesses are actually at very high stress level, because cash flows are near zero. If you're looking at it from a perspective of what government needs to do, I think government needs to do primarily 5 things. One is to get the infrastructure right. Second is to get the infrastructure right, both of which is available. We just have to tweak it. To get institutional strengthening, that's very, very important. To instill back consumer confidence, and so also to incentivize. I think the incentivize is given, but the fact that we'll be able to go back to life versus livelihood argument. So if you give enough livelihood, people getting back to jobs, people getting back to industries, opening up economies without any restrictions. So those incentives are in place. So I think primarily the business community is all for it. Though there are skeptics, I think we will definitely work with the government to make sure that we restore back the economy fast and furious in that way.
Datuk, my last question before we close, we're running out of time. You have some concerns about the moratorium. Can you share your views on that?
Okay, Elaine, again, the moratorium is a $6.4 billion argument. I think government has come back with the counter argument to say, look, the targeted moratorium works. We've got 1.6 million people who have been approved. But I think primarily what we are pushing for is a little bit of tweaking onto that system. We have given the government 8-point parameters. We're looking at says it must be more inclusive. The M40, the T20 who are distressed also must be included. The M40, primarily a large group which is left out, and it should be an opt-out system. We're looking at cost of funds in terms of the not having very high punitive inputs into the restructuring and rescheduling costs, and making sure that it covers facilities which are not covered in the previous moratorium, which includes things like credit cards, leasing, overdraft facilities, business facilities, trade facilities. These were not covered in the earlier program. So we are actually pushing for that to be done. We have made a fair argument. The finance minister is very forthcoming, and I think we will meet somewhere halfway towards that.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the National Recovery Plan, Datuk. That was, of course, Datuk Dr. A.T.Kumararajah, Secretary General of the Malaysian Association of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MAICCI. Now, we'll be taking a